Nobody cares about me, whether I live or die.
Nobody seems to care because you don't seem to care about yourself. You have to care first. If you like yourself, others will like you too.
There's nothing to like.
There's a lot to like if you wouldn't try to be something you're not. It don't work, I know. You better find out now and save yourself a lot of grief.
Everybody hates me.
Nobody hates you.
No? Then why do my parents always send me away? To school all year, on trips every summer? And you threw me out of your room. You didn't throw Abigail out.
You know what you need? A good old-fashioned spanking.
Maybe I do. Nobody ever cared enough about me. Even for that.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods, and we have traveled a long distance from last week's destination on our cinematic road trip, hailing all the way from Georgia for a visit with Smokey and the Bandit, now to the Aloha State. This state is the most recent to be granted statehood back in 1959, but has been a U.S. territory since 1898. It is known for its beautiful weather, sandy beaches, and the exploitation of its indigenous culture for the entertainment of tourists. It's the birthplace of Timothy Oliphant, Barack Obama, and Tia Carrera. Schwing! It also serves as locations for Lost, Jurassic Park, and the original Fantasy Island series, but not the 2020 film or 2021 TV reboot. That's right, we've made it to Hawaii. Dan, all this talk of Hawaii has me wondering, how are you?
Hawaii am doing well today, John. How are you?
Hawaii, I'm doing okay. I just finished rewatching Blue Hawaii in preparation for this episode. And, this episode
Speaking
in our last
of the
episode,
exploitation of the indigenous population for the entertainment of tourists.
Exploitation of a lot of things. Elvis in the first place is exploitation, but we'll get to that.
I mean, yeah.
But we're releasing this episode, or we're recording it, I guess, and releasing it just days after the release of our Smokey and the Bandit episode. And there's a little bit of a funny connection. There's actually a couple of little funny connections. First of all, allegedly, Smokey and the Bandit is one of the final movies that Elvis watched before he died in August of 1977. It came out in late May. The last movie he actually did see was a James Bond movie. And so, that one is the one that gets all the articles written about it. But I did find somewhere where it said that he had a private screening arranged for Smokey and the Bandit. So that's kind of fun.
Now, off the top of my head, I'm going to guess that the Bond movie is For Your Eyes Only.
Oh, you know what? I don't think so. I'm going to look up Elvis final movie watched and see if that comes up with any. The Spy Who Loved Me.
The Spy Who Loved Me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So there's.
All right.
Okay. So I forgot to mention this when we were recording our Smokey and the Bandit episode. And so today, on the day that we're recording this, I quickly recorded a social media video that some people may have seen about Jackie Gleason. Dan, I don't know if you had a chance. You probably had a busy day of work. So in this video, I tell this story about Jackie Gleason, about how he was this really big UFO. I don't know if conspiracy theorist is right, but like he was obsessed with like UFOs and aliens. Did you know about this?
No, I did not.
Okay. Jackie Gleason.
He was, believe,
yes.
The truth is out there.
He was definitely a truth is out there kind of guy before anybody else was, really. Especially when it comes to celebrities.
Focused on the moon part of honeymooners.
To the moon, Alice.
Yep.
And
to
so
the moon to see the aliens that have come to visit us previously.
Right.
Yes.
So it's definitely well
we read that line
documented.
wrong all this time. Sorry.
Yeah,
John. Sorry to
this
keep
is a
interrupting.
this is a well documented fact, and at the University of Miami, there's like the Jackie Gleason Library, and there are a bunch of books about UFOs and alien conspiracies and things like that, or theories, I should say. And in 1973, and I actually looked up the from the Richard Nixon like presidential library. Like the government has a database of a lot of presidential records about like their daily agendas, and I saw that in 1973 Richard Nixon was in Florida for like the Jackie Gleason Golf Invitational, kind of like a celebrity tournament type of thing. And that lines up with this story that I had read about Jackie Gleason, who was friends with Richard Nixon. He was a Republican, and certainly he and Nixon, it totally tracks. Were super buds. And so Richard Nixon at this time took Jackie Gleason to this Air Force base in Florida and showed him aliens. Like embalmed aliens. Dan, your mouth is open. You are in a laughing state.
John, I've never heard this before. Skip to the end. This is what I want to see. This is the movie I want. This is the play that I want. This is the musical that I want.
So what I'm saying is we have another connection with the last movie, because famously Elvis and Richard Nixon have their movie, Elvis and Nixon, Michael Shannon, Kevin Spacey to a lesser extent.
A few versions of that.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, this is a very well-covered territory, this whole idea of Elvis, approaching Nixon to essentially become like a DEA agent. I think like a U.S. Marshal of the DEA kind of a thing. Because he was like, the hippies are ruining our culture.
Didn't Elvis like show up at the White House? I'm pretty sure I remember hearing the story where like Elvis was just showed up at the White House, and they were like, Elvis Presley is. I think this is actually in the Michael Shannon movie. I think that's where I'm remembering it.
Anything I know about it is probably from that movie, because Michael Shannon is the greatest, and him playing Elvis seems like such a far stretch considering all of the other on-screen Elvises we've seen, including to this very day with Priscilla just coming out. And Michael Shannon does not seem like an obvious choice. Val Kilmer, yes. Kurt Russell, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And then, nowadays Austin Butler, sure, and Jacob Elordi, sure. But Michael Shannon, hell yeah. So we do have these very fascinating moments in Richard Nixon's tenure as president. And so the Jackie Gleason Richard Nixon movie is the one I want to see, where he's like, all right, enough of this golf bullshit. Come with me. I'm going to show you some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And he shows him fucking embalmed, like 2 foot tall aliens. Anyway,
I love the idea that like Nixon had this whole like gallery of like aliens and everything that he was like, come with me, I want to show you something. I mean, that was Sean Connery. That was not Richard Nixon. Sorry.
It's his homie Jackie G, and he's like, all right, you've shown me some crazy stuff. I'm gonna show you some crazy stuff.
Yo, Jackie G, Ricky Nix, what's up?
Yeah. So anyway, that brings us into our whole Elvis about it. But let's talk a little bit first about Hawaii, because
we should let's talk about Hawaii.
Yeah. You and I have both been there. We are in the same family. We have been there together for a family thing. Have you ever been there for any non-family stuff, or at least not our family of origin, perhaps with your chosen family?
Yes, with my wife and daughter, we have been to Hawaii on several occasions, and of course, since moving to the West Coast, moving to Seattle, I'd never been to Hawaii before that, but
Mm.
it's a simpler journey from
Sure.
here. And yeah, we've been to Hawaii, a handful of times, mostly just on the Big Island, Honolulu, and we've stayed down by the Ko'olina, which is where
Well, the
that's
Big
where we
Island
stayed
is
as a family.
the Big Island. Isn't that the island of Hawaii? And Oahu is
Oh,
where Honolulu is.
Yeah, that's where I thought was the Big Island was, but maybe I'm wrong. Oahu, anyway, is the only island I've been to.
Right. So it's the actual island of Hawaii, which is the largest of them. Oahu
Oh.
is where Honolulu is.
Shows how much I know about this state.
So you've only been to Oahu.
Yeah, only been to Oahu.
Not to say that that's a bad thing.
Nope. I'm several times been to Oahu. It's lovely, by the way.
Yeah.
I love being in Hawaii. Really enjoy it there. It is pretty much what you a lot of what, maybe not what you see in Blue Hawaii, but yeah, it's kind of an island paradise, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It's definitely, also like a, especially Honolulu, fully functioning metropolitan area.
Sure. And as we've all been made very well aware of, like, Maui as well has a very, thriving culture. And, certainly hope that the rebuilding of Maui is going okay. I haven't heard any updates about that recently.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that, I think the healing has begun.
Good.
In Maui. So John, I don't really have any particular like stories or adventures.
Well, I know that when we were there together, we were pretty much just on a resort. Well, we did go to Pearl Harbor and we did like touristy things.
We did visit Pearl Harbor.
Yes. But I feel like when you start to get into like real life in Hawaii, that's where the interesting things happen. Do you want to know the interesting things that, really stick out in my mind about Hawaii? And I've aside from our trip to Oahu, I've also been to Kauai. And I went there with our parents because they had an extra room in their hotel. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird thing. I think that they were just bored and wanted me to hang out, which is like cool. But what stuck out to me about being on Hawaii, there's two things. First of all, groceries are so expensive because I think that aside from pineapple, everything is imported.
Pineapple, macadamia nuts, coffee.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
everything
eat pig,
else. Yeah.
So exactly. So groceries crazy expensive, but also I got such a big kick out of this listening to the radio and like the rental car while I was there. The thing that they seemed to be fixated on the most, like the DJs, what they were talking about, was how there was no Olive Garden on Hawaii. And they were just like, the mainland thinks they're so great with their Olive Gardens. I mean like the restaurant Olive Garden, not like gardens of like olive groves or something. But they're just like,
right.
People over there in the mainland with their Olive Garden restaurants, conveniently eating soup, salad, and breadsticks. Like they were on this whole thing. And there was like, it was like news about how like, I don't know, there might be rumors of an Olive Garden coming to Hawaii. Like that was the big thing. And I became obsessed with it.
So, I mean, I think we've definitely had this conversation before.
Oh,
because it sounds familiar to me.
I think that this was
I've not made that observation.
I think that on our trip while this is happening, I probably like stormed into a room and be like, "You guys, guess what they're talking about on the radio?"
It's quite possible we could have had that conversation. I mean, like, look, there's definitely stories about that trip, but that's our family. Those are our family.
That's our own family stories. That's not for the podcast. That is not for the podcast. But
no,
I felt
a dinner scene for the ages, to say the least.
I'd
So
say we had a lot of very memorable dinners
yes.
that took place, but maybe not as memorable as some of the dinners that you see in the movie Blue Hawaii.
Oh, of course not. No.
Let's just say no
But
fights broke out that I remember.
no
No.
fights.
No
fights.
fist fights broke out.
No fist fights. No one got arrested.
No one got arrested. We didn't do any sand slicing, which is unfortunate.
No sand slicing. Nobody tried to pick up a child.
Oh, yeah, right.
Nobody. Yeah, nobody tried to put the moves on a child, which happens in Blue Hawaii.
Yeah, so Dan, was this your first time watching Blue Hawaii?
It was my first time watching Blue Hawaii, John. Was it yours?
Did you know anything about it going into it?
I didn't know shit.
Okay, me either. Same.
No.
And man, oh man, was I surprised.
Wow. Well, and John, so all right. And so before we get into Blue Hawaii, I just want to preface it by saying that this was such an interesting all right, so we've talked about one other Elvis movie. We've talked about Love Me Tender.
Mm-hmm.
And Love Me Tender was the first movie that Elvis was in. It was a movie that was not built around him. It was a movie that he was cast in, and then they made modifications to accommodate his singing. But there was like one song in Love Me Tender?
Love Me Tender. Yeah.
Yeah, Love Me Tender. In Blue Hawaii, everything is the difference is amazing because there's every 5 minutes there is a song. No matter what is happening, there a song happens, and it reminded me it's so we'll get back into what it reminded me of because there's actually more weird connections with Jackie Gleason.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is not as interesting, but random. But but what a crazy Elvis, and I'm gonna apologize in advance if I repeat any Elvis anecdotes or anything from the Love Me Tender episode. But it's just really, it was so fascinating. I kept thinking about the differences both in just how the film is crafted to Elvis's performance.
Yeah.
And wow, such a huge difference.
Well, I'd like to know, are there any other Elvis movies that you have seen?
No.
Okay, so far this is the two for you.
I have seen.
Go on.
All right, the only fictional, because I've seen the 1968 comeback special concert film.
Okay, that doesn't really count. I'm talking about
that doesn't count.
The feature films, the ones
the narratives.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like Speedway. No, haven't seen.
Right. So what I wanted to do was, get a little bit more context, and I had heard that King Creole was perhaps the best of the Elvis movies. And so I watched that actually earlier today, and I totally understand why they were just like, yes, put Elvis in movies. And this was a movie that was also a musical. He plays a singer, so all of the songs make sense in the context of him performing in the movie. They're not like a scene stops abruptly and then singing becomes part of it. And in Blue Hawaii, there are a few songs that it's just like, hey, gonna get together with the boys and pick up the guitar, or there's a party and there's gonna be a performance and there's gonna be some, music going on and rock-a-hula and so on and so forth. Or I've got this music box and I'm gonna sing along with it, kind of a thing. But in King Creole, that's where you actually see some like legit acting coming from Elvis. And, we got a glimpse of that in Love Me Tender. And I know that for King Creole, there were a lot of discussions at the time of just like, oh, Elvis is a legit actor. Also in that film was like Walter Matthau, and he went on record saying like, at the time I thought he's going to become a big actor. And sure, he became a big movie star, but I think that they were expecting him to actually be like acting. But, because of Colonel Tom Parker and the money-making industry that is Elvis. It didn't turn out that way.
No, it does though make me wonder, what if it had. I can't imagine that Elvis would have met the same fate had he focused more on a serious acting career. And
Well, yeah,
that's not the point. We're not here to talk about that.
I think that what really could have happened had it not been for Colonel Tom is that Elvis could have gone off in the direction of being an actor and like acting in movies, and not just like pumping out like 4 a year, but like acting in maybe like a movie a year, but also having his music career, but not the two being tied together. Because I know
like
that
Jerry Reed.
Like Jerry Reed. Sure, weird example. Listen to our Smoking the Bandit episode if you want to know what we're talking about. But in
very loosely like Jerry Reed.
Sure. But I know that Elvis was, doing all these movies. He was contractually bound to do all of these movies and make all of these soundtracks rather than, actually creating music. Not to say that he wrote any of his own songs, but like, perhaps having any say in the material that he was recording. And, he was watching acts like the Beatles and Bob Dylan come about and, change music. And he was just kind of stuck in this track where he had to be doing these movies where he had to be the Elvis that's in all of these movies without actually kind of, I don't know, adapting his style with the times. And then, after, once the comeback special happens and, we do start to hear, new music and there's some good stuff. And I think that also probably around the time of like Viva Las Vegas, you're going to be hearing a little bit more of that. But that's kind of it kind of went in one area and then like pivoted over to another one instead of having like a natural arc. And it is a shame, but I will say, like, I had a pretty good time watching Blue Hawaii. So,
it's not entertaining. I mean, Angela Lansbury doing that Southern accent, like Blanche Devereaux prototype.
I was thinking of Blanche also the entire time. Yeah, I wonder if the Hollingsworths and I forget what her maiden name was. She mentioned it at some point. Why don't I do a little synopsis and then we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Son of Great Southern Hawaiian Fruit Company's VP, Chad Gates returns from 2 years of Army service to his home on Oahu, but is more eager to hang out with his girlfriend Miley and a group of Hawaiian native buddies to go surfboard riding, as they say, rather than go home to his parents who expect him to take over management of the fruit company. Eager to form his own path, Chad encourages his travel agent girlfriend's boss to take him on as a Hawaii tour guide. I want to make sure not to make the, insinuation that he is Hawaiian. He has moved to Hawaii from Georgia when he was young, but as a Hawaii tour guide. Delighted by Chad's knowledge and passion for the Hawaiian Islands, the travel agency's owner agrees to bring Chad on his first assignment with Ms. Prentice, a school teacher, and 4 of her students. Unfortunately for Chad, one of Ms. Prentice's students, Ellie, is quite surly and refuses to have any fun, hoping to have some more excitement. This results in a rowdy evening that lands Chad in jail and fired from his job, just because he was protecting Ellie from the advances of a local drunk. Chad and Miley decide to start their own travel company, reuniting with Ms. Prentice and the girls. But when Ellie is rejected by Chad after an offer for a night of scandalous romance, followed by the belief that he's hooking up with Ms. Prentice, she attempts self-harm, which results in a life-changing spanking from Chad. Also witness to a suspect moment between Chad and Ms. Prentice, Miley's trust and confidence is shaken, but all's well that ends well. Chad and Miley get married on Kauai, Ms. Prentice finds love with Chad's dad's pal and boss, Jack, and Chad's father ends up accepting his decision to carve his own path, thanks to a deal Chad came up with that would benefit both the fruit company and his own desires for independence. So, obviously, Chad is played by Elvis. Duh. Joan Blackman is Miley, his girlfriend, who is half Hawaiian, half French. I was so tickled by the fact that like her dad is like a legit like French guy. It's just like
Duval.
was there an influx of, French moving to Hawaii? How does that play into things?
I mean, there does seem to be a little bit of the kind of like of that connection to Southeast Asia and French colonization, because
Mhm.
there's also, I believe, some French spoken by perhaps the
Oh,
most
Ellie.
problematic character. Oh well, I
Oh,
was get well Ellie,
Ellie
but I was
pretends to be a
Ping.
French person. Oh,
Doesn't the
well, well, first, okay. First of all,
because yes,
Ping Pong.
yes,
His name is Ping Pong.
yes.
Yes.
We'll
Okay.
start there.
There
Yeah.
was French involved with Ping Pong's character.
I got the impression that his character maybe was perhaps meant to be like Vietnamese.
Oh, okay. All right.
I believe there was some. I mean, it was just like I don't think that there was like an accurate representation. There wasn't like an attempt to accurately represent like a
No.
specific ethnicity from Southeast Asia. I'm pretty sure the intention was just
Asian, right. And I mean, this is
and
also the same
yeah.
year as Breakfast at Tiffany's. So Asian representation in American cinema has a lot of work to do. We'll just put it that
I mean,
way.
at least it seemed that the actor was perhaps of Asian descent, as
I
opposed to
bel-
Breakfast at Tiffany's, where it
Well,
was Mickey Rooney.
the actor Tiki Hanalei, which to me sounds like Pacific
Polynesian,
Islander
yeah.
Polynesian name. Let me quickly look him up and see if I can find out any information. But he's definitely one of the more disappointing characters. Oh, I guess he also goes by Ralph Hanalei, and was also on, I think, Hawaiian Eye, Blue Hawaii Adventures in Paradise.
Okay. Local.
Yeah, I don't see any information about where he is necessarily from or his ancestors, but Hanalei, I believe, is a Polynesian name.
Yeah.
So we also have a few interesting characters who do seem to be of Hawaiian descent, which are his group of like 4 friends. And the only one whose name I can really remember is Ito, because there's the Ito Eats song, which,
Yeah.
first of all, if Ito is considered fat, then I am a big giant ogre of a person.
Aren't we all? Yeah. No, I don't think he's considered fat. I just think he likes to eat, and we know.
Well, but
that,
there's the joke at the beginning
Yeah.
when he sees him where he's like, "Looks like your chest went down to your belly," or something like that. And it's like, that
yeah.
dude has 0 belly. He just looks strong.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a 6-pack. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that song is like the quintessential, like, we need to get a song into every scene.
Well, that scene had 2 songs back to back. There was Ito Eats and then Slice and Sand, which was really fun.
Yeah. No, but Ito Eats was the one that reminded me of Eddie Murphy's bit in Delirious, which a stand-up act that has not entirely aged well, but parts of it have. And his Elvis bit, and mind you, when I was in high school, I had the entire thing memorized.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And the bit that he does about Elvis doing movies,
Yeah,
where
we're going to win this race.
Yeah. It's like, Elvis, you want some lemonade? Lemonade.
Yeah.
That cool, refreshing drink.
Yeah.
But that assault, it was just like when they said, I think the thing is, fuck it, we'll let him sing all his dialogue. Of course, the mistake in that bit being that the presumption that Elvis couldn't act.
Right. I will say, I thought that the song Slice and Sand and like the whole dance that went with it was really fun. And you get a lot of like really great like Elvis-y moments, and you can see him kind of just like losing himself in it a little bit more than something like I Can't Help Falling in Love. where
Right.
he's just standing there and, singing to Miley's grandmother while holding Miley's hand.
Right.
A moment like that where it's like, that's obviously the most famous of the songs that came out of the movie. The scene itself is very much just like, are they just going to stand there and is he just going to be singing this to this lady who's holding a music box? Okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's a song. That was a song I used to have to sing when I would do the Elvis, the Elvis bits, the birthday parties.
That's right. You were an Elvis performer.
I must have talked about this. On
I
the
believe
Love Me
you
Tender
did,
episode.
but that was a long time ago.
Avoided it. Yes. So context, back in 2002. So on our last episode, we talked about the April 2002 trip that John and I took up to Boston.
Sure.
First time I watched Donnie Darko. So soon after that, so as I had said on our last episode, I had just finished a theater tour and was, I guess, between jobs and trying to figure out the next move. So my friend Dave DeVito, friend of the show, had been doing birthday parties. Dave's a magician and had been doing these, birthday parties, and he offered to help me get booked through the same person that was booking him.
Got it.
Joan
Blackman?
Joan
Blackman, star of Blue Hawaii?
I never asked. But age-wise, that could work. So Joan would primarily rented me out as a birthday party clown, and I was terrible at it. And
you were just going with the family business.
Yes, I was right.
Seeing as how our mother was a birthday party clown.
But much like Chad Gates, I had to pave my own path.
Sure.
So but also, and I think she had said I forget how it came up, but I was like, I could do a decent Elvis. And I ended up doing these Elvis impersonations, and I would get paid to go and for 15 minutes, I'd show up at the party. They'd play the 2001 music, and I'd come in doing the whole. And this is why I saw the 68 comeback special, because that was what I studied.
Yeah.
And I think I also watched Elvis live from Hawaii. And I watched these. It was so interesting. I got these, I'm almost positive, as Netflix DVDs.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Because you couldn't necessarily just go to Blockbuster and find obscure Elvis concert films.
Yeah.
So
no, that tracks
not
time-wise.
but yeah, time-wise, absolutely. So
you couldn't go on YouTube, that's for sure.
I did. Nope. No YouTube to go on. I did that. I practiced his karate moves, did the whole bit. And I would come in and I would do, let's see, I'm pretty sure I would end with the Wonder Review.
Okay.
So do the Wonder Review. If my voice was in a good place, I would do Burning Love.
Okay.
I think I did. Either was it Burning Love or Suspicious Minds. It was I think it was Burning Love. So do Burning Love, and was it Hound Dog or All Shook Up? I did one of those. I think it was All Shook Up. I used to do that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did really the way that he pronounced his L's, because Elvis had a very specific L. He would linger a little bit on the L.
Mm-hmm.
So love me tender. Love me, always held out that L. So yeah, and I would do Can't Help Falling in Love, and that's the one where I'd take the scarf off and put it around whoever was having their 50th birthday.
You'd make an old lady hold a music box.
Yeah, I would just stand there. No, I did a little bit more. I earned my money as Elvis.
So let me ask you, Dan. Clearly you were familiar with, all that was Elvis. You had to become Elvis for these events. Did you like Elvis?
Did I like Elvis's music?
Yeah.
To an extent, yes. Like, yes, I could put together, I could probably put together, if I was going to put together like a playlist of Elvis songs that I like to listen to, it would probably come to maybe 8 songs.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I would say a solid 8 songs by Elvis that I enjoy listening to. And really, there's only 3 that I really like. But I was into, like, when they put out the Elvis number ones, which
Yeah.
that was, I think, a year later. Like, I had a copy of that, and I don't know that I had any, like, I might have had like an Elvis greatest hits cassette at some
Mm-hmm.
point. I wasn't really into Elvis. I visited Graceland when I was on that tour, but
Oh,
we were in Memphis for the weekend.
cool.
So we went to Graceland. But I have to say, it's like one of the better like tourist attractions, or one of the like more interesting tourist attractions I've been to.
You know, well, I've never been to Graceland. I would love to go. I would not consider myself an Elvis fan. I feel bad for Elvis. Um, I also recognize that there's so much about him that is just not okay. There's, obviously there's the whole, marrying like a 14-year-old. Well, I guess they got together when she was like 14. Maybe they knew each other when she was even younger. But that whole thing is icky. Plus the fact that he cheated on her with like every woman he was in a movie with. And then just like, I don't know how much of it is a direct effect of the control that other people had over him and just like finding the only ways that he could to feel like his own person. I just don't know. I don't know necessarily enough about the psychology of Elvis to fully understand these things, but there's just always been something about him that's just like, I feel like he's just a slime ball, and the hysteria around him has just fed on itself. And I know that in Graceland, like, I think was it maybe his bedroom where there's like no windows, it's just all TV screens, and he's just like, why do I need a window? Everything I want to see is right here.
Mhm.
And it's just so sad. It's such a sad thought that, that's the only way that he could really find enjoyment.
Yeah, yeah, and like, look, so I mean, to speak to the like less noble attributes of Elvis Presley, at the end of the day, he always had a choice. So there's that, and
I
but
don't think
also,
he always
yes,
had a choice.
well, I would say, like, look, there's always. I'm not saying it would have been easy to make that choice,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say, especially as a white man, as a successful white man, he, yeah, I mean, like, we know, and for whatever extent we know the truth of what happened, we all, anyone who's heard any of the stories knows that yes, he was being controlled and treated like a thoroughbred
Yeah.
and manipulated, and the drugs. And yes, there's a lot of sympathy there. And like you said, we don't know enough about Elvis's psychology to really understand why. And I'm sure had circumstances built him up differently, he would have made different choices. But that said, I don't necessarily I he's still culpable for things, despite the fact that others took advantage of him. Now that being said, Elvis, I was a, like, I can't think of a better word right now than primo, but primo entertainer, and he
Mm-hmm.
captivated audiences
Yeah.
from the time he went on the Ed Sullivan Show and was doing Hound Dog
Yeah.
to
To the bitter end.
even to the bitter end. He still captivated people, and he captivated people's imaginations. And the opulence of Graceland, it's like, it's not like disgusting. It's not like Donald Trump gold toilet
Mm-hmm.
disgusting. It's eccentric,
Right.
And it is speaking of his psychology, it's kind of revealing to go through that house and look at what he did, what he was able to do when, like, this is a man who was like, wow, I have enough money and I can pay people where I can just walk into this room and say, I want this whole room to look like a jungle.
Right.
And it'll happen. And also, like, that comes back to the idea of, like, of the power and enabling and not being necessarily prepared to have that. He wasn't being advised well.
There was no adult in the room.
No,
Ever.
no.
Yeah.
So, well, or I should say the adults in the room were shitty adults who...
There were no proper adults in the room.
No. Well,
There were people who were taking advantage of him, or there was just him who was in this state of arrested development and living out all of his, fantasies.
Clearly, he also takes part of his house and turns it into a replica of the house he grew up in
Which
for
is
his mother.
Wild.
It is, and when you see it, it's fucking bonkers.
Well, speaking of his mother, let's talk about Angela Lansbury.
Oh,
Uh,
Angela.
Listeners of the podcast, especially over the course of the past year or so, would certainly know that I love me some Angela Lansbury. And Dan, did you know she was in an episode or two of Murder, She Wrote, which I've been watching? Just an episode or two.
Oh, that makes sense.
And even when she's not, even when the character of JB Fletcher is not in an episode, she's still in it because maybe she's playing her cousin who lives in London. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen Murder, She Wrote, but not to the extent that you have. So that's just mind blowing.
Dan, the other night I went to a community theater performance called Musical, She Wrote. Oh, I have the thing right here. Look, I can show you.
Oh.
Musical, She Wrote. It is a musical parody of it's like its own little episode of Murder, She Wrote. It's very meta and like it's about a community theater performance. And it's exactly what you think it would be. I'll just put it that way.
That's great.
But I'm
glad it exists.
I saw that it was happening, and I saw on Thursday that this was happening in town, and for the Friday performance, it was only this past weekend, and I stumbled upon it. So anyway, Angela Lansbury plays Elvis's mom, Sarah Lee. And yes, she is very insensitive to ping pong, and all she wants is for Chad to, go in the family business and to give up all of his childish ways, stop hanging out with those, as she calls them, beach boys, and, stop seeing Miley, who, as a half Native Hawaiian, well, I mean, she is Native Hawaiian, she is born there, but her ancestors are Native Hawaiian. Right. But to Sarah Lee, that is, beneath the Gates family, and he shouldn't be seeing her. He should be, living it up and kind of in the upper crust of society in Hawaii.
Well, yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Sarah Lee is a proud daughter of the Confederacy.
She is, well, no.
Oh, no, right. Yes,
she is the proud granddaughter of a Union soldier.
Well, not proud.
Well, no, not proud. She is the granddaughter of a Union soldier of whom she is admirable about the courage that person had, but it is just a damn shame that he was a Yankee. Yeah. And that's kind of a moment where everyone's just like, "Bah." But it sets her up. It establishes the fact that we know that, like, well, if there's a bad guy in this, if there's a villain, it's her. She is the one that's trying to get in his way. She is the bad guy. So when she does, weird things or says racist things, it's kind of like at least it's the villain and not, Chad, our hero,
right?
Who is friends to the locals and, and appreciates the island's culture and geography and, just shows a lot of appreciation for the land and the people.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is, so this movie, let's see, Blue Hawaii comes out in, is it 61 or 62?
61.
61. So Angela Lansbury plays another devious mother just a year later in The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh yeah. She's fantastic in that.
Oh, she is, but it's so funny to see that she goes from like that. There's actually some similarity between these roles, and
That's true. That's true.
Movies. Although, could you imagine though, John? Speaking of like Elvis being a serious actor, I could have seen Elvis in the Lawrence Harvey role in.
Yeah, sure.
Could you imagine that, Elvis and Frank Sinatra?
Yeah. Ooh, I wonder. I don't know if Frank would like that. Were they friends at all? I could see Frank Sinatra not approving of him.
I could see them being frenemies.
Frenemies, yes. Frenemies, yes. And I'm sure that there's a lot out there about their relationship.
I mean, look, but there could have been money. Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra on screen together. I don't know if The Manchurian Candidate would have been the right place for that, but like, just think, had Elvis gone a different path, he could have been in The Manchurian.
They did some duets together. It looks like they did Love Me Tender, Witchcraft.
Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better.
Yeah, so it was when Elvis, so he was like 25, so I guess right before Blue Hawaii, they did a duet. Yeah, 1960. So, they were friends. Okay. Cool.
I mean, there must have been similar mafia connections.
Speaking of the mafia, do you want to hear something kind of crazy?
Yes.
Okay. So the character Ellie, the surly teen, the one who's horny she needs it to be spanked out of her. So she is played by Jenny Maxwell, and Jenny Maxwell died at the age of 39. And Jenny, she was killed in what was believed to be an attempted robbery. And she was killed as well as her husband at the time, although they were just separated. They were like about to be divorced. And so her husband, whose name escapes me right now, he was, I believe, a lawyer, but had like mafia ties. And it is believed that he hired them to kill her, but make it look like an attempted robbery. And the idea was also that they would like shoot him, but only to wound, to make it look like he was going to be a victim. But instead what happened was, she died, and he then died from the gunshot wound like later, but it was enough time that went by after he was shot that all of her like money that she had from her work as an actress, instead of going to her son as his inheritance, her will would have had it go to him had she been divorced. But because or it's like the order would have been like her husband and then her son. But because her husband died just enough time later, the inheritance went to him instead of the son. And so then he got her money, which when he died, the like, I don't know, maybe day or so later, I don't know exactly what the timeline was, the inheritance all went to his children. And, they had children from different marriages. So instead of it going to her son. So it is believed, this is not, proven. I believe there's been some investigation about this, but I think it was like, the LAPD's theory that it was meant to look like a botched robbery, but like nothing was taken. That's the thing, is like they, if stuff was taken, they'd be like, it was a robbery and they were, shot and killed. But because like nothing was taken and his mafia connections, they think that he hired them or had them like put a hit out on her and tried to like, wound him. But anyway, so isn't that
Yeah.
wild?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny
Jeez.
Maxwell. So that's Ellie.
Wow.
So pour one out for Jenny Maxwell.
For real. Yeah. Sad.
Very
She did-
sad.
She did not deserve that, but she definitely deserved that spanking she got from Elvis. And wow, let's talk about some of the like entendre
Mhm.
in this movie. There are some lines like what does he say to Miley at one point? On you, wet is my favorite color.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
So
Do
okay.
you think you can satisfy a school teacher and 4 teenage girls?
Right.
I
There
think
were
I can do that.
There were certain things where I believe that like the way that vocabulary has developed over the course of time maybe has made it a little bit more sexualized than perhaps they were intending. I mean, satisfy a teacher and her 4 teenage students. That one, I think like it could have been implied in like 1961 that just means, the base level of horny activity. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think by 1961, satisfied meant sassified.
And
To quote Clarence Carter.
and also satisfied. Forgot about that guy. But so just to give context about on you, wet is what was it again?
On you, wet is my favorite color.
What is my favorite color? So she they're at the beach and she is wearing this dress that she got specifically to like go and pick him up from the airport and then of course they get wet from the ocean and she says like, oh, but now I'm all wet and I got this dress special, and that's when he says that, and it's like, and it's just like, oh, is it my mind that's perverting it more than it's meant to be?
Nope. Nope. I don't think there's anything in that wasn't being said at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any modern slang.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly other
Yep.
things where it's like a little bit more overt, and I say that just in the way that like their demeanor is, where you can
Mhm.
tell that that's what they're intending. Right around that same time when they're rolling around in the sand, and that like little boy comes, and there's like, oh no, you can't play the game we're playing, and that kind of thing, and then the kid
Yep.
comes back with like a little girl or whatever. That's the same age as the kid, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
No.
It's
no.
like, now can I play? And that is like a little bit more like
Yeah.
on the nose.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's intentional. Some of the other ones are, they're a little bit more subtle, but I do think there's that intention. I'm imagining, I'm trying to think about the people who are involved in making this type of movie, and like, what we know about Hollywood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. So, do want to definitely shout out Joan Blackman, who plays Miley. I thought that she was as good as one could expect for, somebody like that. She sounds like a pretty, the character was strong. She had every
Yeah.
reason to be, suspicious or to lack confidence at different times. And everything about her character felt very justified to me. I don't believe that Joan Blackman does have any Pacific Island ancestry. Maybe French, but I don't know. I don't think that that's been documented anywhere, but it seems to me like it's a little bit of appropriation there, but
But for the time,
yeah, it's
That-
like at
that-
least they didn't try to pull her off as like 100% Native Hawaiian like they did have
the Emma Stone thing, right?
I've never seen Aloha, so I can't speak to her character in that as being. Is that character supposed to be 100% Native Hawaiian,
I think so.
like full on ancestry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
pretty
not
sure.
good.
I don't know. I've never seen it, but Yeah, there's not, Wikipedia doesn't have much on Joan Blackman.
Yeah.
So not much to know, but like, yeah, she's got good chemistry with Elvis.
Totally.
And
She's great. I thought that she was
Yeah.
fantastic. I thought that Nancy Walters was great as Miss Prentice.
Mhm.
She was totally good. I enjoyed the character of Jack, played by John Archer. He's
Oh, yeah.
the father's like boss who's in town visiting, but also like they're super good friends. They kind of started this company, I think, together, or like Jack started
go
it
back.
and brought him on. Yeah. And I thought that he was just a totally pleasant character. He was
Oh,
funny
yeah.
because he every 2 seconds he'd be saying aloha at the beginning. He was just like so enchanted by being in Hawaii. And he's cute.
He's in the most consistently good mood. His
Yes.
character is the most consistently pleasant.
Absolutely. And I did like how his Chad's dad, Fred, played by Roland Winters, he never seemed like he disapproved of Chad's desires to,
No.
to carve his own path the way that Sarah Lee, felt, and a lot of times he would even say to Sarah Lee, like, you got to cool it, essentially.
Yeah.
I think that he used a little bit harsher language, but we'll just say cool it. But it was really nice to see the way that, the two of them interacted with one another. And I don't know, I bought him as being a supportive father, but in a
Absolutely.
position of power where it's like, well, why wouldn't you take the easy way out? And then it's kind of like, okay, I understand now. I totally get it. And when Chad comes to him at the end, he comes to his dad and Jack and says, all right, here's my idea of how we're going to do this. Here's what I'm going to do on my own, and here's how it's going to benefit the company. And it was kind of just like a perfect situation, and they were just like fully on board right from the jump.
No, it's a good plan.
Yeah.
So coming back to the Emma Stone thing, according to the internet, Emma Stone's character in Aloha was a quarter Hawaiian and a quarter Chinese.
Interesting.
Emma Stone, to the best of my knowledge, is
none of those. Yeah. So and just also to kind of come back around on one other thing, it was really jarring to see in the opening credits that the technical advisor was Colonel Tom Parker. And just to see his name on there, like, made me so angry. I was like, technical advisor. Like, that's just, how it was worked out of the contract for him to make his, make his money off of it. Because I'm sure he did nothing for no technical advising.
Nope, not at all. That was
Yeah.
just his title. Yep. Nope. Colonel Tom Parker, don't like him.
You're going on the record?
Hot take. Hot take.
Super
Not a good
hot
guy.
take. Not a good guy.
Not a good guy. Not a fan. Not a fan of Colonel Tom Parker.
So, Dan, Blue Hawaii, 1961, 2023. What are we going to do?
John, it's really hard to think about a movie like this and kind of put it in, think about what you would do with it today and think about what hasn't already been done with it. I feel like the best path forward is not necessarily like a remake, but some type, like, I want to see a just bizarre, surreal, like, think the tone of Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, like, a kind of compilation of
Which is a musical.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, give me that same creative team.
Yeah.
And give me like a musical that's absurd. And it kind of, I think a lot about when my mind starts going this direction, I start thinking about Top Secret.
Absolutely.
And Nick Rivers and skeet shooting. So I you can't do that. You can't imitate that, but you could do something that is really bizarre, that features characters who just randomly break into song, and it involving all of these strange plots.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like something like that would probably be fun. The other direction I was thinking was just like, all right, well, who do we have that has that Elvis kind of crossover quality? Taylor Swift, which that experiment seems to have failed. The whole let's put Taylor Swift in movies
Yeah. So, all right,
Cats.
I think we first started with her in one of those like Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, one of those movies.
It was Valentine's
Day.
Yes.
More recently, she was in the movie Amsterdam, the David O. Russell movie, and more
yes.
an actual character, which she felt like it's Taylor Swift. You know, it's like you can't look past the fact that it's Taylor Swift.
Right.
Yeah, and she was in Cats.
Right.
Yes.
But it feels like I'm thinking about like who are you going to who are you going to build a movie around?
Yeah.
Who do you have that's a musical performer that you could build a movie around like an Elvis movie? So Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny?
Oh yeah, Bad Bunny. You don't know Bad Bunny?
No.
Okay, so Bad Bunny is I was going to say Puerto Rican. He's a like rap hip hop artist who has also dabbled in acting. He is in the new movie on, is it Netflix or Prime? Hold on.
I'm looking at Bad Bunny right now. He was born the day after me, but also 11 years later. Let's see, music career. I don't see anything about film on his. Oh, there we go. Filmography was just in Bullet Train.
Yes.
Cassandro.
That's the one he was in with Gael Garcia Bernal.
Oh, he was in F9.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And he has also appeared.
Oh, do you know him because of wrestling? Because it looks like he's done a lot of stuff with WWE.
Well, I mean, I knew who he was as an artist. I knew more about him when he got involved with WWE.
Okay.
And then I saw that he was doing film. He's got charisma.
Mm-hmm. Riz, as the kids say.
He does. Oh, he has in droves. So I think he's somebody who could potentially carry a film where he plays this like an Elvis type character that has to solve a problem and breaks into song a lot. But yeah, so take your pick in music. I'm sure there are other artists, but with Elvis, it was like there was that huge like megastar power going in.
Yeah.
So I think if you're really gonna consider it like a continuation or a tribute or something like continuing that genre, it would have to be a Taylor Swift or a Bad Bunny, who, and maybe not as many people are familiar with him, but he still has enough. I think he's got enough clout publicly that he could land there.
I do want to acknowledge for our listeners that Dan is a high school teacher and probably is hearing more about contemporary music than perhaps I am. I have my little bits and pieces here and there, but I feel like you're probably more, you overhear probably more about what's popular.
I hear what the kids say.
Mm-hmm.
I got a recommendation that someone recommended. And this artist can't be part of this conversation. They passed away, but Speaker Knockers with a Z.
Oh, I'm not familiar with them.
Neither was I until they were recommended to me. But and then there's another band that students recommended to me that I listened to. I thought was pretty good, called Inhaler.
Oh, I have heard Inhaler.
You may have heard them.
Wait, is Inhaler? Isn't that like Bono's son's band? Am I mixing that up with something else? Inhaler.
I don't know. I know I had a
band.
bunch of students who drove down to Portland to see him last year.
Really?
To see them.
They're from Dublin, so that's checking out so far.
Well, okay, there we go.
Band members Elijah Hewson.
That's Bono's
Yeah.
son.
So see, I have heard them only in the context of, hey, guess whose son the singer is.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't think the kids know that because that was not how it was introduced to me.
Oh,
And that's
funny.
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
say if you were going to try to introduce an older person to them, that would be the entry point.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Yes. Had no idea until now, but yeah, Elijah Hughes.
The only, I'd say the only like contemporary music act, God, I sound so in my 40s right now. The only contemporary music act that I really listen to, well, okay, I definitely listen to Olivia Rodrigo. I like the new album. I think she's great. Also, love Boy Genius. And I'm so proud of them for getting 6 Grammy nominations. Phoebe Bridgers getting one additional one for work with SZA, maybe? Anyway. Love Boy Genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as you were talking about that, it made me think of, I feel like the last time that I saw, or at least, and I could be corrected on this, but the last time that I saw something like that, where it was specifically musicians, where there was a movie built around the fact that they were performers, was like From Justin to Kelly in like 2002.
Right.
Yeah, where it's like, they are the new Frankie and Annette, or whatever you want to say.
That was totally what they were going for with that. And I feel like they kind of dropped the ball. Like they could have done that with Britney Spears, but they went straight up drama with Crossroads. And of course, I mean, that's a whole lot. There's a whole other crossover there with the whole Tom Parker and Elvis and the whole Britney Spears situation. But
wait, Tom Parker, Sean Parker was played by Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears. Dan, it's a conspiracy. Call Jackie Gleason.
Why I order? Nixon told him all of this was going to happen.
Yeah. He had it all on there. By the way, Dan, do you know what the tagline for the Elvis and Nixon movie was?
No.
On December 21st, 1970, two of America's greatest recording artists met for the first time. How good is that?
That took me a second.
Yeah.
But that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
That's really good.
By the way, earlier I stated that there was another connection with Smokey and the Bandit, but a much looser one.
Yeah.
And it's only that also in Eddie Murphy Delirious, he does a Jackie Gleason impersonation.
Oh, does he? I don't remember that part.
Well, it's not. That part hasn't aged as well.
Is it a Honeymooners Jackie Gleason?
Yeah, it's a Honeymooners Jackie Gleason.
Oh, with
yeah. But the impression's fantastic.
Yeah.
Come over here, pal. I've been watching.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you don't know it, look it up. But you've been warned. You might.
I mean, I don't think that segment is probably not as deeply offensive as like the preface to that segment,
right? Which
is deeply offensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Dan.
All right. Speaking of deeply offensive.
Speaking of deeply offensive.
Is it just going to be spanking? Is that's what the movie's going to be called?
No. Blue Hawaii 2, The Rise of Ping Pong. Okay. While everyone was busy getting caught up in Chad's misadventures, Ping Pong has been quietly creating new paperwork that would transfer ownership of the Great Southern Hawaiian Fruit Company to himself, effectively screwing over the entire Gates family, putting them in financial ruin. So here's how I envision this happening. We have a different actor playing Ping Pong. Certainly there's somebody that could pass this off. Who it is, I don't know. But we have that, and then the events of Blue Hawaii, or like different moments, the moments that Ping Pong is there for are happening, but like blurry in the background. So we
Mhm.
don't have to like have a perfectly accurate Elvis or Angela Lansbury, like, replica, but they're off doing their thing in the background, having the party or whatever. There's a moment where they're doing Rocka Hula and like, I think Miley throws him a rock at a ping pong and he just kind of like goes off camera. We see him come off camera shaking the maraca. Everything is blurry in the background. And then he goes off and he's like going through Fred's paperwork and filing cabinets and like, oh, it's brilliant, Dan. You look uncertain, but I swear, Blue
I
Hawaii 2, The Rise of Ping Pong.
I guess I
Justice
don't
for
know.
ping pong.
I guess I'm cringing a little bit because of the stereotype it plays into.
This is somebody who is being taken advantage of by colonizers.
I get it. It just kind of reinforces that whole stereotype that was common, especially like, well, during World War II, but after World War II, where people were very suspicious of Asian Americans and felt that especially Japanese Americans were constantly spying on them.
Okay, well, first of all, we can only assume that ping pong is a native of Hawaii.
We are not given any specific information.
We're not giving any
yeah.
specific information, but I'm just going to say, like, there are ways to do it appropriately. And I'm not going to give Hollywood all the information. I'm just giving you this seed and we're planting it
You
together.
You gotta let them do the work.
All I'm saying is that we need to take these extremely racist stereotype characters from the early 60s and also maybe going into the 80s and maybe Emma Stone and maybe we and we rewrite history a little bit.
Well, I guess, and taking these, especially a character that's a supporting character, and empowering them and using
Giving them a few more dimensions.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I'm busting your chops a little.
Okay.
Stereotype thing.
I hear what you're saying, but also
I know that's no. I know the intention is that that ping pong is has plans and ambitions, and
well, maybe we also learned that his real name is not ping pong, and it's just like it's maybe something that is reminiscent. Maybe it has like a P and a P and a G in it, but that's just what they call him because that's what Sarah Lee can pronounce.
That makes sense.
Well, Dan,
Okay.
I feel like covering Blue Hawaii and another film in the Elvis Presley oeuvre, we're ready to come back to planet Earth, especially after like Smokey and the Bandit. We got to get past the wacky. So what are we going to do in our next episode?
So for our next episode, we're going to Idaho, and very appropriately, as it is Indigenous Peoples Month, we are going to be talking about 1998's Smoke Signals.
That's right.
Written by Sherman Alexie, directed by Chris Eyre, and starring in his first starring role, if I'm correct, Adam Beach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. I've never seen it.
I'm really looking forward to this. As a teacher, I've taught Sherman Alexie's work, and of course,
cool.
and of course we've got some, we definitely have some issues when it comes to Sherman Alexie and some things to address about him.
Well, I don't know much about him at all, so
I'm not gonna say anything about that, but we're gonna come back to it and look at Smoke Signals, which was probably not the first movie, but like the first, I guess, mainstream movie. I mean, this was a Miramax 1998. Right. Fully like written, directed by and starring Indigenous people, Indigenous Americans.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to looking at that, and of course it's based loosely on some Sherman Alexie's writing, which is also loosely autobiographical. Sherman Alexie grew up on the I want to say the Nez Perce. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Nez Perce tribe in Southeast Washington.
Yeah.
So
Well, I also want to acknowledge for this series that we're doing, where we cover a movie for each U.S. state, and we'll also get into Puerto Rico, and D.C. But in the episode descriptions, there is a link that you can go to if you want to see which native tribes and nations inhabited where each state that we're talking about.
yeah. Whose land was Smokey driving across there?
Yeah, this is all stolen land.
Yeah.
We acknowledge that, and
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to the opportunity on our next episode to talk more, about where we are today, or where we are. What year is this? 98.
No, it's a great opportunity, and not that this discussion needs to be held in a specific month or anything, but it's just kind of that we're doing it now, that we're doing it right around Thanksgiving.
Sure.
It feels like this is not just the time when our road trip is going to Idaho, but it does feel like the appropriate time to talk about a film like Smoke Signals.
Absolutely. Also, Smoke Signals, a great song by the aforementioned Phoebe Bridgers. That's neither here nor there. Has nothing to do with the movie. It's a good song.
No, but hey, maybe in a reboot, that song would be on the soundtrack.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I haven't heard it. I don't know.
It's a great song, but completely irrelevant to anything likely to be in Smoke Signals. Anyway.
Probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, Dan, as you are on your way to go fishing for Edo, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.